So today, we're gonna dive into a really pivotal story from the FBI's early days. It's the manhunt for the killer of the very first agent to die in the line of duty. This is a story about a brazen criminal, a brand new agency with everything to prove, and a chase that would honestly define its future.
So that's the big question, right? The answer reveals this incredibly violent encounter that really transformed the early FBI and launched one of its first great manhunts. The agent's name was Edwin C. Shanahan, and his murder, well, it would galvanize the entire agency. All right, let's set the scene. We're talking the 1920s, an era of fast cars and, you guessed it, even faster criminals. And at the heart of this story are two men, an agent and a killer, who are on an absolutely inevitable collision course. So on one hand, you've got Special Agent Edwin C. Shanahan of the FBI, and on the other, Martin James Durkin, a professional car thief, who had already earned himself a pretty chilling reputation as a truly desperate gunman. And let's be crystal clear, Durkin was not just some petty thief. No, he was incredibly violent. Before he ever crossed paths with Agent Shanahan, he had already shot and wounded 4 different police officers in 2 separate incidents. The guy's reputation was known. He would shoot to kill if you even looked at him funny. Now, Durkin had this signature move, a real racket. He wouldn't just smash a window and hotwire a car. He was slick. He'd walk into a luxury dealership, pose as a rich buyer, get them to service a car, fill it with gas, all while promising to come back later with the cash. Then he'd just break in not night and drive off in the perfectly prepped vehicle. Now I want you to remember this specific method, his MO, because it becomes a huge clue later on. You know, with a killer this brazen on the loose, it was really only a matter of time before he ran into federal law enforcement. And that moment would leave a grim, permanent mark on the Bureau's history. October 11th, 1925. Agent Shanahan gets a tip that Durkin is headed to a specific garage in Chicago, so he and some local cops set up a stakeout. After a long, boring day of waiting, his police backup steps away for just a second to arrange for relief. And in that tiny, tiny window of opportunity, everything went sideways. Durkin drove in, and moments later, Shanahan was dead. So how'd it happen so fast? Well, as Shanahan approached him, Durkin used a trick, a little distraction. It was just enough to buy him a split second to lunge for a pistol he had stashed in the front seat. He fired one shot right through Shanahan's chest. And just like that, Special Agent Shanahan became the first FBI agent ever killed in the line of duty. The murder of a federal agent it was an unprecedented crime, and it triggered an unprecedented response. But it also exposed a really shocking weakness. At the time, there was no specific federal law against killing an agent. The Bureau would have to rely on its national reach and just sheer grit to bring this guy to justice. This official statement really says it all. The killing of one of their own lit a fire under the young agency. This wasn't just some local Chicago murder anymore. Oh no, this was a national priority. The full, concentrated power of the FBI was now aimed at one single target: Martin Durkin. And get this, while the FBI was mobilizing its forces across the country, Durkin was still just hanging around Chicago. A few weeks after killing Shanahan, local police managed to corner him. A massive gunfight breaks out, and when the smoke clears, another police officer is dead, one is wounded, and incredibly, Durkin had vanished. Again. Durkin was a ghost. He had slipped through their fingers twice, leaving a trail of bodies behind him. For months, the trail went completely cold. But then, the killer made a classic mistake. He went back to what he knew best. Okay, remember that signature car stealing method we talked about? Well, on January 10th, 1926, almost 3 months after the murder, a Cadillac dealership way out in San Diego reports a theft. The method? It was identical to Durkin's. Agents had been warning dealerships all over the country, and now it paid off. The FBI finally had a fresh trail. So the next break in the case, it doesn't come from some big city detective agency. It comes from a small town sheriff in Pecos, Texas. He'd had a run-in with a suspicious guy in a Cadillac. The guy talked his way out of it, but the sheriff's gut told him something was off. So he writes this letter to the FBI office in El Paso, just casually noting they might have something on this bird. That one letter was about to blow the case wide open. But hold on, there was a problem, a big one. The Cadillac that was stolen in San Diego, it had green wheels. The car the sheriff saw in Texas,
it had red wheels. I mean, was it even the same car? This kind of discrepancy could have derailed the entire investigation.
This is where Durkin's silver tongue almost saved him. He spins this whole story for the sheriff, says his name is Fred Conley, that he's a deputy sheriff and a movie actor from LA. His story was so convincing, his talk so glib, that the sheriff actually let him go back to his hotel to get the car's papers. Of course, the second he was out of sight, Durkin grabbed his female companion and was gone.
But the special agent in charge back at the El Paso field office, he read that sheriff's letter, and despite the weird detail about the wheel color, he just knew. The smooth talk, the fake story, the way he escaped, it all had the fingerprints of Martin Durkin all over it. He trusted his gut, and he sounded the alarm. They were on the right track. And from there, man, the dominoes just started to fall, one after another. Agents find the abandoned Cadillac, and yep, it's got a broken wheel. Then a local rancher comes forward and says he gave the couple a ride to the next town over. A ticket agent there confirms they got on a train. And finally, railroad conductors positively ID'd Durkin from photos. The net was closing in, and fast. The last piece of the puzzle? His luggage. By tracing the baggage checks from that train in Texas, agents figured out that Durkin and his companion had transferred to another train, the Texas Special, and they knew its exact destination, St. Louis, Missouri. They had him. The cross-country chase was finally over. The manhunt, which had stretched from Chicago to California to the deserts of Texas, was about to come to a very dramatic, very decisive end. On January 20th, the agents didn't even wait for the train to pull into the station. They had it stopped in the middle of nowhere outside St. Louis. They surrounded it, stormed the car, and they dragged a completely surprised Martin Durkin right out of his stateroom before he even had a chance to reach for the guns in his luggage. The first great FBI manhunt was over. And remember that crazy legal loophole we mentioned? Because killing a federal agent wasn't actually a federal crime until 1934, a legal gap this very case helped expose. Durkin was tried in Illinois state court for Shanahan's murder. He got 35 years for that. Then he was convicted in federal court for his car theft racket, and that added another 15 years to his sentence.
He went into prison at age 25. After serving his time in both state and federal penitentiaries, including Leavenworth, Martin Durkin was finally released. He was 53 years old.
And that really brings us to our final question. For a man who shot 5 law enforcement officers, killed 2 of them, and led the entire country on a chase, his release at age 53 leaves us to wonder, in this historic case, do you think justice was truly served?